Alright, this part's always the trickiest. Alright, let's do this. Hey everyone, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with a project update video for this 1/6 scale Armortek Early Production German Tiger 1. Now this is a video here that has definitely been a long time in the making, and is also a video that my fans and subscribers have been wanting to see now for a couple years. And what might that be, you ask? Very simple. This is the last test run of the model just before she goes off into paint and slides into completion. Now, like what was mentioned in the last video update, the tank itself, detail-wise, was finished off. The only thing that needed to have been done before the tank could progress further was the radio and the sound system had to have been calibrated. Now, this is something that I outsourced and I farmed out to one of my associates. The person who hooked me up was a guy by the name of Adrian, and this guy is an absolute wizard when it comes to these Armortek electronics. From the first generation all the way up to their new ones, the guy is probably the single most knowledgeable person there is when it comes to getting these models up and running with their electronics. Adrian is the same guy who sells the smoke fan control boxes, which are utilized to give the model a little bit more realism with the smoke system. The unit patches into the sound system and the smoke unit, as opposed to the stock way, which utilizes the main drive to power the smoke. These boxes are highly recommended. I've used several on past builds, and this build here actually has one mounted inside. To get the sound system calibrated, I sent him the radio, the RX, and the sound card. He went ahead and custom tuned the sound files to the controls on the radio, and also mounted on the Benedetti encoder, which is something I'll go over as the video progresses. But again, this video is a huge shout out to him. Before I go over and start the model, let's go over the radio. This is the same Futaba radio that was mentioned in the previous videos, but this one here has been modified with the encoder thanks to Adrian. Over here, you notice a rotating knob, as well as a triggering switch. This allows you to actuate many of the sound files on the model, with the exception of the main drive. Those are tied into the main sticks that we have here. What this guy does, this allows you to access the engine firing and shutoff, the main gun firing, as well as also the crew commands, which are found also on the sound file, which is pretty cool. Now, currently, they are not labeled at this point, but this, of course, will change once the model slides into completion. Basically, the way it works is you go to the sound file that you want, and by hitting this little toggle switch, actuates the sound card file. Now, what's also really cool is another sound file that this thing has is a failed engine startup, where the engine fires up, but fails to turn over in a positive manner, which is a nice little bit of realism found on the sound card file. Now, another thing I went ahead and added to the radio was I turned off the Failsafe. This is something that needs to be done whenever you're using these type of radios. The Failsafe, which was originally intended for an RC airplane, is found on this stick here. And if the battery gets below a certain voltage, this triggers the Failsafe, and the one drive section on the sprocket will just spin in an uncontrolled rate. This, of course, for an airplane is what you want to prevent the plane from just crashing into the ground. But on a tank, this is definitely less than ideal and causes nothing but problems and can definitely cause some damage. It's just definitely something you want to turn off on your radio whenever you get the first opportunity. The second thing that needs to be done is you need to reverse the one direction found on the motor. When you first configure these Armortek tanks, whenever, specifically the way I do it, where you want to go up to go forward, this stick here, it's going to be in reverse. So you just go into the settings, switch the polarity on that, and the tank is then more controllable as you can go forward and backward as you wish. And it's more of an intuitive type system compared to having to go all crossways with it. As you notice, the tank is currently on, and I'm going to fire up the sound system. Now, currently the volume is probably set a little low. After this test drive, I'm going to go ahead and adjust that so that the model has a little bit more of a louder presence to it. Now, to turn it off, you just hit that switch again, and the engine is killed off. I currently have the radio now set to the failed engine startup, which if you're ever firing up an engine in the cold, sometimes this might happen. That's your turret rotation. Gun elevation, those two can be switched back and forth. Now, those aren't patched into the side-to-side functions. However, something like this can possibly be done. Honestly, I'm not exactly the person to ask about that. Clearly, those are the tank's radio commands. The next file is the machine gun. Now, currently there is no flashing LED found in either the coax or the bow gun spot. This is probably going to change once the vehicle gets finalized. The next sound file is the main gun. You notice the barrel does recoil in a nice smooth manner. This was mentioned in more depth in an earlier video. Now, there is a photostrobe found in the barrel to simulate the gunfire flash, just like it is on Tamiya 1/16 scale tanks. Now, unfortunately, with this lighting, it's not very visible. However, if I bring the camera around, you can probably see it better from the muzzle end. All right, now, without further ado, let's go ahead and take this tank out for its test run. Okay, well, there's nothing really much more you want in a test drive than that. The tank performed basically perfectly. I didn't run into any problems with the track throwing or any other sort of issues like that. The suspension held up without any problems. Now, this was really the first time I actually test drove the tank with the turret and all the other hull components now fitted. Of course, this tends to add weight to the model and generally need to make some adjustments to the track tension. While on that note, the track tension is good the way it is right now, but I am going to give it a couple extra turns of tension just so it's really in its sweet spot. Now, if you notice, one of the pins is currently sticking out. Just like I said with the T34 test run video, that's just the master pin, and that's only in place right now in a temporary manner because, of course, after this test run, the track's going to be removed, so everything could go into its paint. And then once the tracks are fully painted and it's time for permanent installation, then they'll be installed in the correct way, and you're not going to have to worry about them ever falling off because of the way the pins are designed on this kit. Also, I hope that the smoke system came through on camera. It was puffing away in some good bursts, specifically when I had the throttle on full and the model was running at its full speed. Now, if you also notice, I was driving the model at slower than normal speeds just to keep the scale Nazis off of my back. And by the way, the tank can go a pretty decent speed. Tiger 1s were not as slow as people like to pretend that they were. But that's an argument for another day. Having said that, though, you'll notice that the tank did perform well even at slow speeds over some obstacles. Note on the off-road terrain that I was driving on. I was driving up and down hills. I even went over the other big mound that is on the property. Tank performed without any hiccups whatsoever and did everything that I asked for it. Well, all that's left now is to get this model back onto the lift table via that very narrow scissor bridge that I had to carefully drive the tank off of. So with any luck, I'll be able to get this tank back on. Once on, off she goes into painting and then final completion. But of course, more information on that is to follow in the next immediate project update videos. And with that, that wraps up this project update video for this 1/6 scale radio-controlled Armortek Early Production German Tiger 1. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to this channel, where it's a great way to keep up to date of new project update videos like this guy here, or the smaller scale model showcase videos that frequently get posted. Another way to keep in the loop of new posted content is by liking us on Facebook. There I have more photographs of this particular build that have been posted all the way since the project start, as well as the other smaller and larger scale builds that are showcased on the ECA channel. Furthermore, don't forget to swing by eastcoastarmory.com for more 1/6 and 1/16 scale builds and detail components. Till next time.